If you live in southern Arizona, you know there's no place in the world quite like it. The Sonoran Desert casts a spell. The mountains beckon on every horizon, and the wide skies go from piercing blue to dazzling displays of clouds and light. We know this is a special place, yet many of us don't realize just how special it is, thanks to the mountains that rise above our desert basins. We call those mountains sky islands. Islands because they rise up above the hot, dry valleys, just like islands in the ocean rise above the water. Altogether, the mountains and valleys host an incredible abundance of plants and animals. In fact, there are more species of plants and animals in the Sky Islands region, more kinds of life than anywhere else in the United States. We call that biodiversity. When we add up all the kinds of life that live in a place, the trees, the plants, the birds, the insects, the mammals, the frogs and lizards, then we can measure the biodiversity and compare it to other places. Our Sky Islands have amazing biodiversity. The mountains that form the Sky Island region extend from southern Arizona into northern Mexico, 55 mountain ranges in all, and because this area contains similar plants, animals, and climate, scientists call it a bioregion. So how did this bioregion come to support so much biodiversity? It all starts with the rocks that shape the land. Geology is the study of rocks and land, and how the land was formed over millions of years. In our Sky Island region, the shape of the land makes all the difference. Geologists call the landscape here basin and range because there are low flat valleys, the basins, in between high mountains, the ranges. Both the basins and the ranges tend to extend north and south. The vistas are gorgeous. Most of the mountain ranges in the Sky Island region formed around 15 million years ago, when the continent of North America was stretched from east to west. The rock that forms the crust of the earth cracked along faults, so the valleys dropped down and the mountains lifted up to form the basin and range landscape we see today. Much of the research that helped us understand how the basin and range landscape formed took place right here at U of A. Geologist George Davis from the UA Department of Geosciences was one of the researchers who helped discover how the region formed. The mountains make the great abundance of life here, the biodiversity, possible. That's because as you go up the Sky Island mountains, the climate becomes cooler and wetter. Water brings life, and the mountains bring water. The mountains receive more than twice as much water in the form of rain and snow as the basins. They also help to store and distribute the water. Some of the water is used by plants and trees, some is held in the soil, some flows down streams and canyons, and some seeps through cracks in the rocks to fill aquifers. Giant underground lakes, like the aquifer that supplies Tucson with the water that we use every day. Also, if it were not for our mountains, we would not have our seasonal monsoon storms. We receive about half of our annual rainfall from monsoon storms. The mountains make the monsoon happen. We know that the mountains bring water. They also create different places to live for different kinds of plants and animals. Some plants and animals have evolved in the desert, so they don't need as much water. Some have evolved high in the mountains, so they can endure the freezing winter temperatures. As the habitat changes, depending on the height of the land, called the elevation, so do the plants and animals. Different plants and animals live at different elevations. Scientists call the different habitat levels life zones. At the bottom sits the desert life zone with its distinctive varieties of cactus. Going up, the desert merges into the thorn scrub life zone. Above the thorn scrub, the habitat shifts to dry, semi-desert grassland. Higher up, around 4,500 feet in elevation, the open oak woodland life zone covers the landscape. Above 6,500 feet, the habitat becomes pine forest, just like the forests much farther north in Colorado or Canada. Part of the incredible biodiversity in the Sky Islands comes from the life zones. At the same time, there are many plants and animals from nearby regions that come together in this area. There are plants and animals from the Rocky Mountains in the north, from the Neotropics and Sierra Madre Mountains in the south, from the Sonoran Desert to the west, and from the Great Plains and Chihuahuan Desert to the east. All those plants and animals from different habitats meet in the Sky Islands region. Because all these habitats come together here, it is the only place in the world where you can find jaguars, ocelots, mountain lions, and bobcats all in the same habitat. The Sky Islands give us our beautiful southern Arizona landscape and world-class biodiversity. They have also inspired a diversity of people who explore, study, and celebrate the natural wonders of this region. Thousands of people enjoy the Sky Island Mountains every year thanks to our national forests, national parks, and state parks. Dozens of scientists at the University of Arizona study the rocks, the mountains, the trees, plants, animals, insects, and climate patterns of the Sky Island region. Some of the researchers here work on an interdisciplinary project called the Critical Zone Observatories, or CZO, sponsored by the National Science Foundation. The CZO looks at how all the Earth's systems work together to enable this abundance of life. There's so much to discover here. Many nonprofit organizations like the Sky Island Alliance, the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, and the Nature Conservancy work to preserve and communicate the wonders of the region. And many government agencies make it possible for us to explore and appreciate the enchanting Sky Islands. All of these groups and the individual researchers, land managers, amateur naturalists, volunteers, and people who just love the Sky Islands are working together to share what they learn and better understand the astonishing web of life in the Sky Islands. What we have learned is that all the systems that sustain life here are deeply interconnected. The Earth's systems depend on each other to work in balance and harmony. Fundamental natural cycles like the water cycle, the energy cycle, and the carbon cycle can be understood separately, but really they work together, linked in a complex dance that sustains life. Some of those interconnected systems, like the climate, are being pushed in new directions by human behavior. As our world heats up, the effects will be felt everywhere, and especially in the Sky Islands. Fire will alter the landscape, habitats will change, and some species will be pushed out, possibly to extinction. Yet life in the Sky Islands has evolved and endured for millions of years. It all started with the rocks, the geology. The mountains bring water, and water brings life. Life has populated this landscape all the way from the dry deserts on the bottom to the cool, wet pine forests at the top, in an abundance that is dazzling to behold. Those of us who live in southern Arizona are lucky to live among the Sky Islands, and we hope that our children and their children after them will be able to enjoy the diverse beauty of this amazing natural resource. We'll see you in the islands.